Messi. Messi. Oh my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary. What a head, son. What a head. Back of the net.
Hello, and welcome to the Not a Pundit podcast. It is spooky season. My name is Killian Ginnity, and I'm delighted to be joined by the haunted Nathan Byrne. And don't call him a Frankenstein, Conor Glennon. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. I think Haunted's a good one for a Man United fan this time of the year. It's I think Newcastle drawing at Everton's bad, but I think Ten Hag's having a bit of a worse day than me. How are you, mate?
He's coming for me already. He is. No, I'm good. I'm excited. I'm back. I had to take a break last week. I was ill, but I'm back and looking forward to the show.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling, yeah, re-energized.
Good stuff. Now, obviously, you listened into the podcast last week. We were honest about Man United, shall we say. What was your impressions of the conversation overall?
Yeah, I thought it was fair. I think there's two sides to the story. But yeah, I thought it was fair. It was. Listen, you can only be so honest about United right now. We're 14th in the Premier League, so
We're starting how long?
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, so we can only be so honest with it. But yeah, no, it was good. How are you?
I'm good. Sunderland are just class, so like it's great. I think people are finally starting to jump on the whole. Let's try and get as many Sunderland players into the Ireland squad as possible, which I'm all here for. Dennis Cirkin, Joe Bellingham, lads, just let's do it. Let's just do it. Nate, obviously, last week we were less than kind about kind of the Ten Hag situation. That hasn't left the news though. What's this meeting that I've seen going around on Twitter today?
And why didn't I get an invite?
We're not important enough, unfortunately. It was a meeting that was apparently been planned for months. It's just a regular board meeting, but I feel like it's been a bit of the media have taken it and sort of ran with it. Gone like,
I'm shocked by that.
managers. Yeah, you don't see that very much, do you? Like, but yeah, it was like, oh, manager not doing very well. Board meeting on Monday. They're going to sack the manager, and yeah, it's 8:30 on Tuesday, and he still hasn't been sacked. So yeah, it's looking a bit like smoke and mirrors. But I'm at the point now where I wouldn't be surprised if he stays, if he goes. So I'm just riding the wave.
So the pressure is on, but this particular incident was just unfortunate timing for the conversation rather than it being an indication of anything.
Well,
Nice.
yeah, like, but it is the perfect time to sack a manager if you are going to sack a manager. 2 weeks.
And this is what Robbie was saying. Looking into the international break, it's a pretty nothing burger time to get it done, and but he can be gone and out of the club by the time the players come back. But I do think you're right. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, in the fact that it was probably a normally scheduled board meeting. But then I do think Radcliffe didn't handle the media side of things too spectacularly when he's going down the road of, well, I like Erik and we'll see how the meeting goes. And it's is he trying to kind of bring heat to it, or what's your sense of Radcliffe? Obviously you're tighter to the club than either of us would ever be, but is that just kind of niceties, or does he actually believe in him?
See, I think he was actually trying to cool the situation by saying that, because most of the fans want Erik gone. So he very much was like, yeah, we'll see what happens in the meeting. And to me, that was to more cool things down. I gather from talking to people the way Jim Ratcliffe is I don't think he's Eric's biggest fan.
Okay.
I think he would sack him. It's just he has a leadership in place now, so it's not really his decision to do it.
Doesn't he not sit at the top of that decision tree, though, or is he kind of church and state a little bit with it?
When you put a leadership team in, it's got to be a group decision at that point.
That's who Omar Barada, Dave Brailsford, or Sir Dave Brailsford, should I say, and Ashworth, is he in that conversation too?
So and the Glazers as well.
Oh, I didn't realize they're in that.
Yeah, they're at the meeting today. So
Oh,
the in terms of what happens, I don't really know. Tuchel's getting linked again. This
who,
that
who this who this podcast really promoted for a good while.
I Tuchel excites me. Like I've been very complimentary of Tuchel over the years, or over the side of the year that he's been sort of linked in around United. So he'd be my go-to personally.
Can you guys
But
afford to get rid of him? It's something we touched on last week, and you're talking the guts of 25 million quid, including staff, to get rid of him. Like, is that even feasible right now?
I believe it is. It's not a PSR issue, so
Okay,
it's more just
cash flow.
whether they want to spend it or not.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with PSR according to a lot of people that have been talking about it. So yeah, I'm sort of stuck in the middle. I personally think it might be time for Erik to go. Um, I wish no ill will towards him. I think he's done the best job that he could have done in circumstances. And I think the position we're sort of in has been sort of created through a lot of uncertainty over the year. Um, so I wouldn't be against getting rid of Erik Ten Hag. But
And
I'm
with the
not.
with the
But
with
I'm
the Ruud
not.
van Nistelrooy side of things, I'm hearing a lot of noise on both sides of the camp going, well, we're just looking into an Ollie 2.0 here. If we jump back in, what's the point in getting rid? Like, a lot of the pundits are saying that, Ten Hag's a better manager, or sorry, a better coach than maybe Ruud van Nistelrooy is, but Ruud is the better man for the job at the current time.
Listen, I love Ruud as manager. I'd be singing the song every week.
And is that just from a standpoint of view though,
That's
or
from
is
a fan point of view. If it was between him and Tuchel, I'd pick Tuchel every day of the week. Um, just purely because I think he's the best man for the job currently. I wouldn't be against Rude because I think it would bring a bit of fear back into that dressing room. Um, he's one. It's the same thing in terms of Ollie, where Ollie was a bit of a nice guy, but if Rude was manager, the fans are picking Rude every day of the week. Do you know what I mean? Like,
But like I always, don't get me wrong, I adore seeing ex players come back and kind of be involved in the club perspective if it's the right thing. I really hope one day we see Michael Carrick in that dugout. But for some reason, although Rude hasn't had extensive experience, like I know he was head coach at PSV, and that's no nothing, and he got some trophies while over there. But is it a case of it's a bit Ollie-ish on paper, but because of his persona, it might actually work?
I actually don't think it's Ollie-ish at all. I think he's a lot more experienced than people think he is. Um, I think he got a real good tune out of that PSV side that were like had them over excelling in a league that they weren't favourites. You know what I mean? He won 2 trophies with them, which is already better than say Ollie did at the time, and like he has a real desire. Like I admire that he was willing to come in as a coach. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't an ego thing or anything like that. Um, so like I wouldn't be against Rude. I'm at the point where I'm starting to think there's a culture issue at United where the last 2 games I've seen things that I don't like out of this team where it's like
Dig into that.
players
What are we saying with that?
players aren't trying, players aren't putting in a shift. Like that's the bare minimum we
And
need.
do you think that's a case of the dressing room is gone? Like the manager's lost the dressing room, so they're like, let's just get this guy gone, or do you think it's genuinely, I've given up on this club?
I think it's to do with the manager, but it's still unacceptable regardless. Like the bare minimum if you play for Manchester United, as will every other club's fan say, is you put a shift in when you're on the pitch. And I'm to the point now where I need to see someone go in, and I think Tuchel and Rude would have this where it's I'm running the show, like I'm running the show, and Rude more so. I think. Could you imagine some of these players that don't put a shift in? We're picking Ruud van Nistelrooy every day of the week. He came to this club and proved himself. Do you know what I mean?
One of the things that
He's a
really
legend.
sold
Like
me One of the things that really sold me, and sorry to cut across you, is that I saw. Now I hate Rio Ferdinand myself. There goes our chance of an interview with him. But he had a chat with Van Nistelrooy, I think, for TNT, and when you see Van Nistelrooy talking about how he never expected to get that opportunity, and the excitement in his face when he got that call, and you can give me as much media training as you want. That to me, that was genuine, kind of. A sense of belonging at the club, and that's one hell of a start if he is to get the job.
Yeah, like I think that's the big thing. Is like I'm always torn about the Ollie thing, yeah, because we didn't play the best football. We weren't. We should have won a trophy under him. Like we weren't the best on the pitch that we've ever been. All right, but them 3 years were some ride. I'll tell you that. There's just there's just something special about your own club legends being manager. Like it's hard to say. Um, but if it was between Ruud and Tuchel, I'd pick Tuchel.
Do you think Rude would stay if Tuchel takes it? Would he stay in that capacity as assistant?
I don't know. Like that would be a Tuchel thing.
If he doesn't, it puts a major question mark over every coaching hire going forward. Is it kind of like, oh, if you're hiring this person as a coach, are you bringing them in to be your next manager? Because obviously he's promised Rude that he was going to be
Yeah.
the next manager. Like, I think it'd be a dangerous
Uh,
precedent to set if he was to instantly leave. And like, if Tuchel doesn't come out and say, oh no, I want my guys, and unfortunately that meant people had to leave.
See, I think that leadership group comes into question then again, because it's not only did you back a manager for another season that didn't work out, you brought in an assistant coach that potentially leaves too. It's like, what is your plan here, boys? Then you know.
yeah, but I'm sure that's all discussions that are ongoing. Like no one knows whether Tuchel want to keep him, want to get rid of him if he was to come in. Um, yeah, it's a tough one. Like it's, one thing I'll say for sure is I do not want another interim manager at Manchester United.
So
Like
if Rude gets it, you want
it,
him given?
I'm-
He just give it to him, like.
just give it to him on the spot because like I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than what is that 2 or 3 times now that we've had an interim manager. Like the 6 months become pointless. Like literally pointless. So yeah, I'm in a tough spot. I think it's probably time to cut ties with Erik, but I'm not one that's gunning for his head. If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I mean, one of the points that I saw during the week that actually made me think a little bit differently about the situation. Maybe this is a Ten Hag problem. Maybe it's that cultural issue you're talking about. But Gary Lineker was saying that he thinks the reason that a lot of the signings of the last 5-6 years, regardless of the manager, haven't worked out is because there's no clear system. So you're buying these players that are meant to fit into a system that no one knows what it is. Well, at least if you're a Brighton or a Brentford or even a Spurs for that fact, you know the kind of football you're going to play. So therefore, you know the kind of player you need to play that football. While with the likes of insert any player you guys have bought in the last 5-6 years, there's no real reason for them coming in apart from having had a good career or showing some prospect.
Yeah, I think like that is an issue, but I think that's an issue that wasn't like that was an issue created by the atmosphere in the club, by people running the club at the time. In
In fairness,
terms
that's an
of
issue that's been fixed already by getting in the likes of Dan Ashworth.
yeah, yeah,
Like he's only in the door, so like it may have been fixed. We don't know
true,
yet, but it
yeah.
may have been fixed.
But like I can my the big thing I'll take it from the last 2 games, and I'll say it again, is these players, and it's a culture thing. I'm convinced because it's happened under 4 managers now. Is when the going gets hard, they do not graft. Like I don't care if you don't believe in the manager or what. You go out and put in a shift for the club, for the fans to pay the money to come and watch you. Like it's such a simple thing in my head that I really don't understand it. And I think they need someone in that job that the players fear now.
I,
That
I, I totally agree with you, and I think Ten Hag really doesn't help himself in these circumstances because like we all look at that game and anyone can see that the players aren't trying, but in the media he comes out he being Ten Hag saying it's our fourth clean sheet this season. You can see we had very good organisation and togetherness. I'm sorry, that's just, what are you saying? Like help yourself, man.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you can only, number one, you can only say so much, and number
Say
two,
nothing if you're going to say that.
well,
You said it best when you said nothing at all.
yeah, I get what you mean, but I think he's stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of burning bridges and telling the very honest truth.
So going, like, obviously we're into the international break. Say Ten Hag somehow manages to survive that boardroom. What do you think the next couple of months look like? Are we every week, if you guys get a draw or a loss, are we going today's the day, or do you think it'll be accepted that he's got at least till Jan?
Um, to be honest, I don't know. Um, yeah, I really don't like. I don't know. Like, if they want to sack him, you sack him now. If not, I think that's another mistake from the leadership team. If you go and in 2 games' time you sack him, then it's like you got to pick or choose now. It's the perfect opportunity.
One
But
final
yeah,
point on that leadership group. I've been reading a lot on Twitter that there's some defense of the C-suite people being like they've only been in place since July and it's only October. Do you think that's a bit of a cop out, or do you think it's a case of, like, as in football, you need to get it right from the minute go, or as a fan, are you kind of like, yeah, look, it's only a couple of months into the job, they're still finding their feet?
no, I think they're only like I'd be on the side that they're only a couple of months in, finding their feet. Like, we're only 6 or 7 game weeks into this season,
Feels a hell of a
like
lot longer than that, doesn't it, boys?
it does. But like we're literally only that far in, so like I feel like it's unfair to judge them. But regardless, they're going to be judged now after this. So like they gotta make a decision one way or another. And personally, if you keep Ten Hag, you need. I'm on the side that you need to come out and make a statement
In
saying
what ways?
we're back in the manager. Like,
Jesus, you need to be brave to do that.
That's always gone down well before. Like, that's usually the death knell for coaches. No, we're backing them. We're backing them.
And then 20
2
minutes
weeks
later,
later,
you hear Allegri's flown into Manchester Airport. Like,
oh man, if Allegri's on, oh Jesus Christ.
I don't think he's Leroy Rossinier, 15-minute at Torquay. I don't think he's like that bad.
What do you think, Killian? Rude, Tuchel, Ten Hag. What do you think about the whole situation?
I think Ten Hag is done. I think, like I said last week, it's the Steve Bruce thing. I'm the last bad feeling around the place.
I think
Whether
that
or
was the
not it's
best way
true.
to summarize it, because I do think if he goes, that will be it.
Yeah, like it, because it's the last real overhang of pre-Ratcliffe, where it's like actually tangible difference making. I think Tuchel is the only way to go. I think Rude, it'd be just pure and utter vibes, but I think it would be interim only. Because if you continue at the way you are going and even finish 10th, no matter who's in the hot seat, heads will have to roll. So just get the guy who will maybe get you up to 8th, but will almost certainly guarantee some level of success in the next season. Whereas Rude would still be a bit of an unknown. Plus, does he really align with what Ashworth wants to play and the players that he's going to sign? I don't know.
Regardless
But
of
with
manager,
Tuchel, you kind of know what you're getting.
regardless of manager, I'm interested to get your opinion first here, Killian, and then on to Nate. But 3 years time, where Man United? Don't even. We're not even saying who the manager is. Where do you
Yeah.
think they are?
I think the best they could hope for is Tottenham right now,
I agree with you.
where you're kind of, you might get a top 2, or you might get 5th, maybe a 6th,
At
usually
worst.
a 4th.
Yeah,
It's
I totally,
anywhere.
I totally
And
agree.
I think that's more to do with kind of the competitiveness at the upper end of the Premier League rather than a criticism of United explicitly. Now, it could be a bit different considering some of the court cases that went on the last week. That there might be not as much competition or a whole lot more. It could go either way, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, I think it's going to be a bouncing up and down between kind of like, yeah, we're really happy and kind of going, we just missed out.
Nate, what are you saying?
Um, I'll say it is. I think we'll win the league in the next 4 years.
Oh, you
I,
can clip that one. Oh,
I,
okay.
you can say what you want, this, that, but when Radcliffe comes in and he hires the level of expertise that he hires and is clearly willing to spend the money, it's the bare minimum. We need to win the league in the next 4 years.
Well, it's the bare
The
minimum,
CEO,
but
the
I don't think
CEO,
it's
the CEO
feasible.
have come out and said that we need to win the league by 2028. I'm back. I'm backing for that. Um, like, yeah, I'm
You know
backing.
one stat I saw that really shows the place that United are in at the moment. So with Kobe Mainoo's withdrawal from the England squad, it means there are no Man United players in the Three Lions squad for the first time since 1976. If that's not a
Jesus.
drop off, I don't know what is.
But lads, let me say this: it's bad right now. Yeah, we've had a bad start to the season, but I think people think it's a lot worse than it actually is. Like we still
Because you're
got,
Man United, you know.
we still got a very good squad. We like we won the FA Cup last year. Like we won the League Cup the year before. It's like it's not as bad as people are. They're hitting the alarm bells now, going, "Oh, we're 14th after 6 or 7 games." Like let's
See,
take it.
I think
Let's take
United of
it
old
chill
to
now.
people are used to going, sure, the League Cup's for young lads. You know, sure, that's just a nice one to add on to whatever we won already that season, you know?
Yeah, but it's more than we've won. What for the
Oh,
five?
I totally agree with you. I think that's just the perception of I think anyone who's
But
over
like,
the age of 30 thinks of the League Cup and Man United as a trinket, really.
but we
Consolation prize.
Yeah.
well we bet a good Newcastle side in the FA Cup final. Number
No,
one. Or
enough of
sorry,
that.
the League Cup
We don't need
final.
to bring that one up.
No, but we did, yeah, like we did, and we bet our rivals in the FA Cup final last year. Like that shouldn't be sniffed at. Like I don't know why it's then in a matter of what 8 to 10 weeks we start hitting the panic button and going, "Oh, we're done for." Like, no, I don't think it's as bad as people think it is.
I'm kind of turning the screw in you a wee bit. I do think there needs to be a lot more respect put on the FA Cup's name. The League Cup, to me, is a bit meh, but
But
the
you're
FA
saying that
Cup.
because you lost it, like,
No, I mean no, dead serious. Like FA Cup, I think is the one of the biggest trophies in England. You know,
and back to back FA Cup finals, by the way. Okay, okay, I'm just back to back
yeah, that's a nice little mic drop on that one. I think
back
if
to back FA Cup finals.
let's have a gawk at the nosy neighbours. The old Man City who love a good old court case.
They do.
Can anyone distill the information that's going on about this? Because I was looking at every sort of paper, like Instagram post. I struggle to make sense of it.
Looks like gibberish to me. Like.
Okay, so I've done my homework as best as I can. I was never an A student, but I'll give
We'll
you the
take
kind
a
of
C. We'll take a C.
I'll give you the
Neuer,
pub
Killian.
man's I'll give you the pub man's understanding of it. So basically, what this case centers around is associated party transaction rules.
Okay.
What that actually means is it's transactions between companies and clubs that are owned by the same people. So think Man City and Etihad. And that was kind of a crucial point because one of the things that this tries to do in terms of PSO, FFP, all them kind of things, was the fact that it's trying to stop teams being able to overinflate sponsorship deals. So think Etihad sponsoring Man City and getting to name their price that they want. So what this rule was doing was the Premier League was having a benchmark that they could say this is an acceptable level and a realistic level for this deal to be getting. If you're over that or under that, we can't let you do it.
And that was just based off the market being the other sponsors of the Premier League.
Well, this is the thing nobody knows because Man City was not privy to what that benchmark was. So That's not good. And this rule doesn't cover shareholder loans. So what was happening was like, say, it's happened at Arsenal, it's happened at Brighton, but probably most famously at the minute is with Everton, where the ownership gave Everton a £350 million interest-free loan. Well, that's not what would go in the market. You wouldn't get an interest-free loan for that level of money. So that is basically the crux of where City have won 2 of the 25 points that they were going up with in this case. So it's anti-competitive because they weren't able to see the benchmarks, and the fact that it doesn't include this means that the rule just can't really exist. It doesn't make sense. It's unlawful. That's where Man City are claiming the victory. So this is where Newcastle could get a big benefit because they have an ownership that owns other companies. And where Newcastle could really benefit is these rules are brought in just over a week after Newcastle was taken over by the PIF. So this was in a direct retaliation to Newcastle's ownership. So this could open a can of worms there where they could chase the Premier League, kind of going, well, this is unlawful and you did it to get us. Now, them rules that were implemented in 2021 were then amended and enhanced in February of the year gone by. And that's kind of where a lot of the kind of stricter end of it is coming in, and where has really allowed City to win this case. But the Premier League are claiming a victory because they're basically saying that, yes, we lost on this little point, but that the rules in general are not only good, but they're lawful and they've been given the thumbs up. We just need to tweak a thing or two. They're not perfect. Like, they admit that when they lost the case against Leicester, they said, oh, the rule was not wrote very well. You're £1 billion company talking about your rules not being wrote well. What?
See, this is interesting to me.
That's why they can both claim victories, because yes, they have won on the rules overall, kind of being like, yes, this is okay, but City are going, well, no, now we can actually get our sponsorship, and this is where things could get really messy. Which is, if the Premier League tries to enforce these same rules again in any way, that could push the likes of City, Newcastle, Everton, and Chelsea. They were all the ones that had drawn battle lines and supported City in this case. Arsenal, Man United, Brighton, Brentford, they all supported the Premier League. So there is now a war happening ahead of these 115 charges against City, and the clubs have now picked a side.
That's really interesting, and when you break it down like that, I that's what I couldn't understand when both sides were claiming the win, because it really seems like more of a war of who can figure out the rules and operate in the grey area until they're completely stringent than anything.
Like, we're getting to the stage now where it's kind of like Formula One, where it's like, who's going to find that little
inch
in the rules that'll allow us to do something that nobody else has spotted, but it's doing it in a legal sense and a financial sense. So what this basically is now going to allow is that Newcastle could turn around, come up with one of their straw man companies again, and basically say, well, we think that the shirt sponsorship should be worth 125 million more than it was last year. Why? Well, because we have a bigger footprint in Saudi, and then they can do it.
And you see, even if I take off my black and white lenses for a second, from what you said there of it coming in a week after the PIF took over, I think if you brought that with the kind of Court of Arbitration for Sport, I think that's the name of it. It's like, so we were fine to be able to buy a team, but our other companies aren't allowed to be involved with that team. That's kind of suspect.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the issues. It's kind of like with so many, the likes of the PIF owning so many companies, can one of their other companies not buy another team? Like, it's as if they're trying to block that, which I kind of get. But where we have to remember with these rules being brought in is it was the Premier League clubs that looked for it and voted for it.
Well, this is the thing. Vote. Yeah, this is the thing. It's like you can't create the monster and then moan about it, like.
But there is the boogeyman in the background that could benefit from it, which is the Super League.
But I see. Before you dip into the Super League bit of it, like, to me as a football fan, look, yeah, I want to see my team be able to buy the best players in the world, but is it a? I think it's wrong to go. You know, just because we can through a shell company generate more income for ourselves. That's not right. Like, I don't care who's the badge on the jersey is, and especially it's my club, Newcastle, and it'd be great for us. But like, I think if you're a football purist, you're not up for that.
And that's basically what the Premier League are trying to block, rightly or wrongly.
What are you saying, Nate?
But like, just to get it right, this is just one little argument in the whole case.
This
Like,
isn't the 115
Yeah,
yet.
this is
No,
separate.
yeah, but like this is just an argument on like the semantics of the 115 charges.
Sort of. So like it's what it kind of does is it reframes how money coming in is going to be looked at. And that basically that City could go, well, we may have broken them, but you stopped us from being able to do this, which forced us to break that rule. And so I
That's
think
a
one
real
of their
blame game. That
so this is where they're going to basically tie them up in litigation to try and make them drop a load of the charges. I think I've said this a good while ago. I don't think the 115 charges will stick. Some of them will, though.
So you think this is a play by City to create bad press and optics around the Premier League to force their hand into even scaling down the charges at a minimum?
No, not necessarily. I think this is a play by City to show a weakness in the rules of the Premier League.
And undermine it as a total.
Undermine what they've been trying to do. And then when the charges come up and they win on, they could win on 80 of them. They don't need that. They don't need all of them to stick. The Premier League just needs a certain amount, and then based on the certain amount that gets through, well, then they can penalise them on that amount. And basically, City will then be able to turn around and go, yeah, but we already know the Premier League rules are a crock or whatever.
But I tell you what, though, what rules do stick or what charges do stick, they're gonna get the book thrown at them for.
Oh yeah, like it's getting really bitter now.
Like it's good. That's what I mean. It's like whatever charges do stick, it's going to be the book thrown at them
because they're the first through the wall. First through the wall always gets bloody.
But now
it gets worse, Connor.
Now City have made a bloody like City have upped the ante now, where it's in the Premier League's interest to retaliate against them and just throw.
Yeah, they've poked the bear a bit.
Not even that, lads. It gets worse. After the Premier League made a statement basically saying that they had kind of claimed their victory, Man City wrote to the other Premier League clubs saying that the Premier League were wrong.
See, now that's
getting bitter.
But that's what do you even achieve from that?
The girls are fighting. It's drama.
Like, but literally, you could shoot that around in the owner's WhatsApp group. Like, it doesn't need to be public. Like,
but all this needs to be live streamed, though. All this needs to be live streamed, though, doesn't it? Like, why isn't there a camera in the board, like in the courtroom? Like, why?
If we had a camera in for Wagatha Christie trial, why can't we get a camera in for this?
I think one thing what this is going to really do is this is going to put enough question marks over any of the rulings that transparency is going to become a central argument by both sides. That's going to be like, well, if you don't like the rules, well then here's the rules, and these are the ones that we went and got them adjudicated by somebody else, and they say it's okay. Oh well, we think yous aren't being truthful on that, so now yous have to prove that yous are, and it's going to become this kind of big thing of who do you trust more. I wouldn't trust either of them.
Well, that's just about to say. I was like, I wouldn't trust the Premier League, you know.
But the Premier League wouldn't go and join a Super League.
Because it's not in their interest.
That's, you know what I'm getting here? You know what vibes I'm getting? Live golf.
Yeah. I think this could be a turning point. Like, don't forget, there was plenty of clubs that didn't back out of the Super League. The Super League is still there. The boogeyman is still in the shadows.
It's just Barcelona, Madrid still waving that flag, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, does Newcastle do it now? Because their ownership have form with Live Golf, as Nate says, but they're now a big enough team and they've drawn the line in the sand against the Premier League. So did they kind of use this as leverage to get into it?
I think our fan base would genuinely riot. Like I Newcastle is a very working man's town. It's not a London Charlie type club. I at least, geez, maybe I'm naive saying this, but I really just don't see that being allowed to happen.
But we saw the whole of the UK was protesting for God knows how long when the first one came up. Like, remember that? Like,
Oh, sure.
it was
There was games
literally,
being called off and everything. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Remember
see,
the
this is the thing.
United fans stormed the stadium. Like there was loads of stuff about it. Like, I don't think it's feasible. I don't.
That's why these little cases are becoming so important, is because it's all about how the arguments are going to be framed. And when it's going to be the Premier League doesn't want us to succeed, they want to keep yous down in Newcastle. They don't want teams like us doing well. The Super League does. Premier League don't want us anymore. They're fighting us in every corner. They don't want a team from the north doing well. They only want their London elite. Suddenly you will get fans backing it.
I don't know. I hope not. It's interesting that you mentioned though that teams are picking sides. That's why Live Golf popped into my head. It's like, could we see a point where like a certain number of teams leave, a certain number of teams stay, and then it's like,
See, I think the thing that's different in England compared to all the other leagues when it comes to Super League is there are so many leagues under the Premier League that would be absolutely broken in two. So it's not even like if you're a Notts County supporter, you're not going to be for the Super League. Like they're going to have millions of people against it at every level of the game.
Yeah, but there's another thing that is kind of possibly going to come in, and this Man City case could, not this particular one, but the 115 could really bring it forward, is having government oversight over the league from the UK. And obviously after the Tory rule there, nobody would want that. But does that kind of make them go, yeah, way too much bureaucracy here? Affect the begrudgers. We can't operate under this. So our only option is the Super League.
Stranger things have
I,
happened.
I think we can't underestimate, like, these are companies with a lot of money at stake. And even if it was only for a year, like the Live Golf kind of thing, where they'll go, yeah, we'll break yous for a year. We'll prove a point, and then we'll all come back friends again
See,
afterwards.
I think with that though, the FIFA or UEFA would do it in such a way that, like they tried to, even with the Super League, that if you left, you couldn't come back for like 10 years.
Yeah, but like, don't forget, this is the same FIFA that has squirreled its way to giving Saudi Arabia a World Cup by kind of going, oh, well, the 2030 World Cup, that's going to be the 100th anniversary, so we'll have to give a game there to Uruguay and somewhere else. Oh, well, that's that box ticked for South America, so we don't have to go there now. Sure, the next one's already North America, sure, we don't have to go there now. Oh, sure, we've already done Asia, we don't have to go there now. Oh, our only option now is the Middle East. These will do whatever it takes to do what they want.
You're not wrong.
So, we're already seeing more and more Middle Eastern movement in the upper echelons of FIFA. Do not be surprised if FIFA take over the Super League. And that's how they do it. That's how they bring them back. It's kind of going, don't worry, you're coming back under our umbrella.
So like Live's merger with PGA.
Yeah, I think that is the playbook, and the fact that it has happened with the golf, it's taken the sting out of the tail. Oh, like, this isn't earth shattering. We can all survive after it. I don't know. I think this case isn't a massive thing. I think it could be very interesting for the bigger clubs that, like, they might, even if it's only for one or two transfer windows, might have a massive amount of money to play with. But I think this is the beginning of the City fallout. And I use fallout in the sense of the video games. This is going to be a nuclear bomb into the game of football that's going to start in January. And by the summer, I don't think the landscape is going to be the same as what we've seen.
There's no way they get relegated. They may exclude them from Europe, which affects their player resource point of view, but there is not a world in which they'll relegate them.
You have to get relegated, then
I think they will. I genuinely think they're going to throw the book at. See, they're going to make an example out of them. Like,
and an example will go to the Super League. Like, there's no world where they're going to stick around and take.
But then
that.
Who do they play? It's just City, Madrid, and Barcelona.
No, the Super League doesn't go ahead without a big buy-in from English clubs. Like, it just doesn't.
You need the top four. You
Like
know,
it just doesn't work.
What
Like
is the top four anymore though?
but okay, 4 of the top 6. You know,
Yeah. I don't know. I think don't forget the other clubs that are back in City here. Newcastle could be arguably there. Chelsea as well. Chelsea, like
Chelsea
after
wouldn't
City,
surprise me.
they're next on the chopping block.
but Chelsea fans wouldn't allow the Super
Do we
League.
think Bowley cares?
See, that's the thing. I don't think he cares, and I think
Bowley
if
would care if the heat got turned up on him and affected all his other businesses. Yeah, I think he would. Yeah,
I don't know. He's shown pure and utter contempt for all other norms of the sport he's after buying into.
but like, let's be real. Like, if City are found guilty on a number of charges, the book will be thrown at them now.
see
Oh,
what
absolutely.
They've
But
tried to show.
they've
tried
opened
to show the
themselves.
Premier League up. Like they've tried to.
well,
If
this
they-
is what I don't understand. It's like like
It's all
why
rules off.
why call the big win on the small win? You know,
Because it kind of is a big win in the sense that like this is affecting finances. This is affecting PRS. And now if they try and push on this, City can go and take them to court again, or Newcastle will. I think the Newcastle one is the one bubbling under the surface that's going to be very, very interesting.
see, I just wouldn't want us to
who's-
poke the bear.
Well, you're gonna. Predicting it now, you're gonna.
I think
But
you're right.
What's going to happen now is the new year is coming up, so there'll be new sponsorship deals negotiated, and the thing is, they can now name their price because they're the ones moving it from the left pocket to the right pocket.
Yeah, but every club can do that now.
Yeah, but not everybody's owned by a $1 trillion fund.
State fund, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think Man United can compete.
Well, can they? Because Premier League have like changed the rules again. Like they've gone back and changed them.
Well, see, this the other thing is like if so, the Premier League are claiming they're gonna they're gonna not rewrite the rules, but they're gonna make them compliant to this ruling. As they say, the little tweaks, and they reckon they can do it in about 10 days. That one raises questions over the rules in general, but two, does that open up another case and another argument against them? Kind of going, yous are just making this up on the fly. That like, why should we buy into yous when yous are just going to decide whatever yous want anyway? Like,
Well, like
it's a real. The whole thing is a really, really dangerous precedent.
I don't think it is if it saves if it saves the competitive nature of the league. I think it's a necessary step that needs to be taken.
I think the rule is very, very necessary. I think the fact that they haven't applied it right, the fact that they've now lost this case, it's just bringing way, way, way too much unnecessary attention to the Premier League itself, its rules, and overall, it's no longer about football. We're going to be talking about court cases between now and the end of the season more often than we are games.
Can you imagine the amount of money that a couple of law firms are making off this? Oh, Jesus!
We went into the wrong game, lads.
100%. Like my last question on this one: hey, if say these charges end up in City getting relegated, and that starts the Super League. Now, neither of us think that's possible, but if it was to be the I suppose the key and the engine start to the Super League, would you rather they didn't get done?
No, I'd rather
No.
they get done. I want justice.
So even if it meant the Super League happens because of this, you still want to
Yes,
get
I'd
done.
rather get done, and I'd still protest that I don't want my club in the Super League.
I think I'd agree with Nate.
I'd
I
rather
think-
go and fight the Super League than let City get off it scot-free.
Yeah, it would give the Premier League a moral high ground. Kind of going, we're trying to do things the right way, and because you don't want to play by the rules, yous are gone off sulking. Yous didn't like that yous broke the rules and got caught.
And what happens
Well,
next
then
is
go
because
away.
of your actions. Yeah.
Yes.
But I
Yous are the
also,
spoiled child.
I also think, like, and this is going to sound way more dramatic than it is, but I think as a process, football needs to heal a bit in terms of, I think a lot of football fans need to come, just like, I think it needs to be noticed that stuff wasn't done the fair way. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of football fans are, like, up in flames about the way City have transpired over the years.
The sport is a whole lot murkier than people were willing to admit.
Yeah.
and it's all
I think
coming
it
to the
always
front
has
now.
been. I think it
Oh yeah,
just
but
in
it's
different
coming to the
ways.
front now. It's
Yeah.
all coming
I
to the
think
front.
us as football fans kind of need that win against City to go. We
I,
got
I
it.
agree with you. I'm just terrified of the Super League. Whether Newcastle join it or not, it's beyond me. I think if it happens, like lads, look, whether I would prefer Sunderland to win the Premier League 4 years in a row than the Super League happen. Like, honest to God, like
Yes, please.
I genuinely think the Super League could cause riots in the UK.
it would. It
Like,
absolutely would.
I genuinely think there would, because it doesn't just affect Premier League teams; it affects everyone down the pyramid. And
It's global football, and it's
I,
you do that, you cannot rebuild it.
I genuinely think there would be riots.
So it's October. Have I scared you enough?
Yeah.
Before we finish up, international break coming up. What did we make of the Ireland squad?
um, I was. This sounds really poor, and just sounds like I'm taking aim at him. But like, I was glad Doherty got dropped. I think it was needed, and
100%.
you
I
know,
wouldn't feel bad about it. I'd say it with my chest.
I
Keep it dropped.
I will say how it was handled wasn't great. In the fact that it was you didn't have a face to face meeting; it was just kind of an email, as far as I've heard, or some sort of text comms. So that I don't like, especially for a new manager. But it needed to happen, so it's a positive. What are you boys thinking?
Step in the right direction. Like, I think it wasn't a brave enough squad. Like when Helgrimson was talking about Doherty, he was kind of saying, "Oh well, we need to plan for the future." Basically, that like we want to try other people out when we can. This is going to be our last kind of proper test before we get into World Cup qualifiers and stuff. Um, I think if that's your mentality, well then be much braver. Why have Jamie McGrath? Really, like we kind of seen what he's done. Why have players like Ogbene, even though they're good and they've always been good for us, but like if you're going to experiment.
Is he pandering though by getting rid of Doherty, or does he actually want to get rid of him?
I don't know about you, Nate. I don't think there was an option but to get rid of him after the
Yeah,
last
I think
performances.
there might have been riots at the Aviva if he started that. Yeah, like to be honest, I'd keep him dropped. I don't think he's in it. I don't think his head's in the game. He's just very poor. He hasn't been the same player since Wolves, in my opinion. And I don't see him getting back to it, frankly. I'm interested to see some more reinforcements in the midfield. I'm really disappointed that Jake O'Brien misses out. To me, that baffles me because
Do you think it's just a minutes thing?
no, because like this is your chance to see him. Like you can't go. Oh, I want to see new players. You haven't seen Jake O'Brien.
Yeah,
Like
fair.
it doesn't make sense to me. Like this guy is really good. Like why is he not getting called up for Ireland? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's that kind of classic thing of like, oh, if you're not playing at the right club, well, he's not playing at the right club. He's at the wrong end of the Premier League. But for Ireland right now, it's Premier League. Yeah, he's such a talented player, and it is kind of sad for him to miss out. But is this are these games important enough? One to kind of really judge Helgrimson on, and two, as Richard Dunn alluded to, should he be under pressure, Connor, for his job if he doesn't win either of these games?
It's absolutely insane to me that that's even getting thrown around in the press. Like
By a former international, a very, very good servant to this
a
country.
former captain. Like it's madness to me. Like, look, let's face it, lads. We're like 60th in the world, somewhere in there, like 59th or something. It took us how long to get Heimer even in the door? We'd be insane to judge him off 4 games and go back to that merry-go-round of, is it going to be Lee Carsley? You know what I mean? Like we made our bed. We need to just lie in it and see what happens. Like I don't know about you lads, but it when I saw those comments from Richard Dunn, I was just like, what are you looking for airtime? Is that what this is? Because to me, it's just mental.
There probably is a part of that, yeah. But the one thing I've taken from this is the Ireland in general feels more destabilized as ever before. Like it feels like in my head, and this might sound mad, is Hiram regime sacked in my head already. Just I'm not saying he should be sacked. Let me clarify that. But I think the pitchforks are already out from some people.
I think they were out as soon as he got in the door.
But I don't see it getting much better.
Like I totally agree with you, but also like let's be real. Like he's look. I don't like the way he's not going to see players in the UK, and I understand it the way he's phrased it that he's better spent looking at a laptop and all of that. But like, take all of that away. We haven't given this lad a chance. Like he's had there's been nothing for him to fairly judge. Like I honest to God think if you sacked him, he'd sue for unfair dismissal, and I think he'd win.
No, do you know what the thing is though? Like, number one, pitchforks are out. Number two, it is a stable environment, but the way either the FAI have gone about it or him himself has gone about it has been totally wise. Why is John O'Shea doing press conferences though?
It makes
what's going on?
Plan B like.
But that's what I mean is like we can't be like, oh, let's go behind the manager and like we got to back him, lads. When to me he doesn't even look like the manager. Like,
he's off doing fill-ins back in Iceland for his local patients.
Well, see, this is part of the reason why I think there's a bit of pressure on him is because he had some quotes during the week that are not what people like me, who are a big supporter of him, and I think he will be good, want to be hearing. Was that like he said, I haven't been in this environment where there's so much attention. That was probably the thing that not shocked me but surprised me. I probably wasn't ready or aware of how big it was, how much media there is, how much attention it is. I'm not used to it.
I mean, like lads, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, there's two sides to look at that. Like, okay, very humble man, understand what he's saying, but that's the kind of thing you tell to your close circle, not the media. You know, like that makes you look clueless. Like
you're giving them
I want to broadcast it.
Like you're literally giving them the stick to hit you with. Like, but like, let's get it straight. You cannot say that when you're the one. Because now it looks like you're dodging press conferences rather than
100%. You look scared, like.
But if that's not the case and he's not dodging press conferences, whose decision is it to keep putting John O'Shea? Like, I'll say it again. Like, the only way you're going to get used to it is if you actually do it. Like, so start doing it.
But it's also like John O'Shea must be like, why do you keep telling me to do this? Like,
I'll be honest. John O'Shea looks like he's loving it. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, John O'Shea looks like he's loving it because people think it's his team.
John O'Shea is the Ruud van Nistelrooy for Ireland right now.
Shout.
It's on another level.
He is the man, like, no matter what he's doing, he is going to be that little devil on the shoulder for the media to be able to throw at them because it was his job, really, whether anybody wanted it, to give it to him. And speaking of jobs that was just given to people that were there, we have a new CEO in Ireland, in Ireland football. It was the interim, who was already part of the organisation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Jesus. Imagine.
What a surprise.
That's eventful for the FAI. I must tell you, lads, I didn't see that one coming. Like,
in all honesty, I hope he does well. Like, let's hope he can bring change despite the fact that he isn't it.
But like, what change is he going to bring? Because he was the old part. Like, he was it. Like,
let's hope he's that employee that had loads of ideas that people just got annoyed about, and he just kept putting his hand up. But gentlemen, it is time to part ways. My thanks, as ever, to Connor and Nate, and to you, our listener. And we'll catch you next week for the next chat.
Bye-bye.
Messi. Oh my goodness! Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary! What a head, son! What a head! Back of the net.